Do you still think that corruption is only about stolen money? No. Corruption is about stolen opportunities, it's about stolen futures, and it is about a stolen dignity. Today I'm not talking as a certified fraud examiner expert and not as an idealist philosopher in politics, but I'm talking as a human being who believes that ethics in politics isn't a luxury, it is a moral mission toward humanity. Many people think that fight against corruption is hopeless and thus it is meaningless. Maybe they are right because that fraud will always exist. But even though we may not uproot corruption completely and totally, but we have to remember that history shows us that every generation faces its own fraudsters, its own abuse of power, and its own hidden crimes. The real question isn't whether we can completely uproot the corruption and the fraud crimes from any society. The real question is whether there will always be people awake enough and aware enough to resist the fraud and corruption. Remember, countries don't become better because they become zero corruption. They become better because the honest people in those societies, in those countries, refuse to surrender to fraud and corruption. Fighting against corruption and financial crime is not about numbers, data analysis, or reports, investigations, generative AI. Fighting against financial crime is about protecting hospitals from losing their resources, protecting schools from being robbed of its futures, protecting citizens from losing faith in their homeland. This mission requires knowledge because fraud, crimes happens usually in darkness and ignorance, not under the spot of the light. For this reason, fighting against corruption needs to be defended by evidences, the knowledge of getting the evidence against this crime, not by emotions, not by revolutions. It needs evidences that can speak. But knowledge enough is never enough. It must be carried by conscience. Exactly, conscience. The courage of the fraud examiners that can deal with integrity, not as a job, but as a call within them. Maybe one investigator can't change the whole system of a fraud, and one honest official cannot change or clean the whole ministry from corruption and fraud. But whenever there are people who exist and care to fight corruption and fraud will never win completely, and that's absolutely important. The true victory isn't by eliminating corruption completely. The true victory is by creating leaders in every generation that are aware and smart enough, genuine enough, honest enough, who have enough call within to fight corruption and fraud for the sake of humanity in their own generation. If you believe in justice, believe that this mission isn't just political mission, it is ethical mission. It is the mission of every human being who cares about being a human.